May is the one month where the ground is warm enough, the frosts are behind you, and perennial roots establish so fast you can almost watch it happen in real time. But here's what most gardeners don't know. A handful of specific spreading perennials, planted right now, will double and triple their footprint before the first frost even arrives, and come back next year larger still. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you 10 of those plants, with the exact cultivars and zone details you need to make them actually work in your yard. Stay with me to number 5, because that one plant is the most underestimated ground cover in American gardening. And once I show you what it does, you'll understand exactly why serious landscapers keep going back to it year after year. Welcome back to GardenIQ. Before we get into the list, here's a quick framing thought that will make every plant on today's list make more sense. Fast-spreading perennials don't spread randomly. Each one has a specific biological mechanism that drives its expansion. Some run by underground rhizomes. Some throw out surface runners. Some self-seed so reliably they essentially plant themselves. When you understand the mechanism behind the plant, you can put it in the right spot and let it do the work. That's the difference between a perennial that quietly disappears after one season and one that turns into the lush, full landscape you actually wanted. I've organized today's list with that in mind, and I'll tell you the spreading mechanism for each one so you know exactly what to expect. Let's count them down from 10. Number 10 is Sedum Autumn Joy, and its claim to fame is timing. While most perennials are winding down by August, this one is building toward its peak. It opens the season with thick, blue-green succulent rosettes, transitions into flat flower heads that shift from dusty rose to deep copper as temperatures drop, and holds that color well into October. The spreading mechanism here is clump division. Each plant slowly widens its crown underground, and after a few seasons, a single specimen has quietly become a substantial mass planting with zero effort from you. It thrives in full sun, handles extended dry spells without complaint, and is fully hardy in zones 3 through 9. The one condition that will absolutely kill it is standing water. Soggy roots rot fast, so drainage is non-negotiable. For late-season pollinators, particularly bees preparing for winter, those copper-toned heads are a critical fuel stop. Pair it with ornamental grasses and you have a fall combination that honestly looks like intentional garden design. Yarrow is one of those plants that has been growing in cottage gardens for so long that people forget how genuinely hard-working it is. The cultivar Coronation Gold is the one to look for. It produces those large, flat-topped flower clusters in a deep saturated gold that holds its color better than almost any other variety, and it doesn't flop the way some of the softer yellows can. The spreading mechanism is rhizome expansion. It slowly creeps outward underground, filling in gaps and gradually building those wide, naturalistic drifts that are almost impossible to fake with deliberate planting. Full sun, lean soil, and good drainage are all it asks for. Zones 3 through 9. The mistake most gardeners make is amending the bed too heavily before planting. Rich, fertile soil actually makes yarrow grow tall and loose-stemmed, and it'll need staking before the summer is halfway through. Plant it lean and it stays compact, structural, and beautiful. Pollinators treat those flat heads like landing platforms. Bees, butterflies, and beneficial wasps all congregate there through the height of summer. If you've ever wanted that soft, hazy silver-blue mist effect you see in high-end landscape photography, Russian sage is where it comes from. The botanical name is Perovskia atriplicifolia, and the variety Little Spire gives you the same airy, billowing quality of the straight species in a more compact form that works in smaller borders without overwhelming them. The plant produces woody stems covered in silver-white hairs that catch the light beautifully even before the flowers open, and from midsummer through September, those stems are loaded with tiny violet-blue blooms. Structurally, it expands into an increasingly wide and full subshrub over time. Not a fast runner, but reliably larger and more impressive with every passing season. Full sun is essential. Shade makes it lean toward the light and lose that upright architectural quality that makes it so striking. Zones 4 through 9 and genuinely deer-resistant. The aromatic foliage is one that deer consistently avoid. The movement it adds on a breezy afternoon is something almost no other perennial can replicate. Coneflowers are native to North American prairies, which tells you almost everything you need to know about their toughness. The cultivar Magnus is the gold standard. It earned the Perennial Plant of the Year award for good reason. The petals on Magnus are horizontal rather than drooping downward like the straight species, which gives the flowers a more open, face-forward appearance that reads beautifully from a distance. The spreading mechanism is dual. The plants slowly expand their crowns while also self-seeding into surrounding soil. So within a few seasons, your original cluster has become a loose, naturalistic colony that looks exactly like a wildflower meadow. Hardy in zones 3 through 9, drought-tolerant once established, and one of the most wildlife-complete perennials you can grow. The blooms feed bees and butterflies all summer. The seed heads that follow feed goldfinches through winter. The whole plant earns its space 12 months of the year. Avoid heavy nitrogen fertilizing. It produces lush foliage at the expense of the structural stems that hold those flowers upright. Daylilies are the perennial that almost every gardener has grown at some point. But the difference between planting any old daylily and planting the right cultivar is enormous. Stella d'Oro is the one you want for reliable, season-long performance. Unlike many daylilies that have a single flush of blooms and go quiet, Stella d'Oro is a repeat bloomer. It flowers in early summer, rests briefly, then rebounds with another flush through midsummer, and again in late summer. Each individual flower lasts one day, but the plant keeps producing new buds in such rapid succession that it never looks bare. The spreading mechanism is clump division. The root crowns expand outward steadily, and after 3 or 4 years, you'll have a dense, full colony that you can divide in late summer to propagate new plants for free. Hardy in zones 3 through 10, tolerant of heat and humidity, and genuinely unfazed by drought once established. The most common beginner mistake is crowding them at planting. Give each crown plenty of room up front and trust that they'll fill the space faster than you expect. All right, number 5. Here's the plant I mentioned at the start, the one serious landscapers quietly reach for, while everyone else walks right past it at the nursery. Ajuga black scallop is a ground cover with foliage so deeply colored, almost black-purple with a subtle scalloped edge, that it looks almost unreal. It spreads by surface runners that peg themselves into the soil and root down, creating a continuous, seamless carpet that expands outward in every direction simultaneously. That's what makes it so different from clump-forming perennials. Rather than expanding from a central crown, it colonizes the ground laterally, filling bare soil and smothering weeds before they get established. In spring, it sends up short spikes of vivid violet-blue flowers that are among the earliest nectar sources available for emerging bees and butterflies. It works in both sun and shade, which almost nothing else on this list can claim. Zones 3 through 10. The only management task is edging it away from your lawn a couple of times a season. Left completely unchecked, it will absolutely cross boundaries. But that same enthusiasm is exactly what makes it invaluable for covering difficult areas where other plants struggle. Pair it with hostas and heuchera under a canopy, and the layered foliage combination looks genuinely spectacular. Most gardeners think of hostas as a safe, reliable shade plant. And they're right. But Sum and Substance takes hostas into genuinely dramatic territory. The leaves on a mature specimen of this cultivar can reach 18 inches across, with a rich gold-green color and deeply impressed veining that creates extraordinary texture. It's one of the largest hostas you can grow, and in the right setting, under a high tree canopy, at the back of a shaded border, it becomes an absolute focal point that anchors the entire garden composition. The spreading mechanism is crown expansion. Each plant slowly builds a larger and more impressive clump over the years, and after a decade in the ground, a single, sum and substance hosta can span 4 feet or more. Zones 3 through 9. The critical mistake is afternoon sun exposure. Direct summer sun bleaches and scorches those magnificent leaves almost immediately. Morning light or dappled shade keeps the color rich and the foliage intact. Slugs are the one persistent pest, but crushed eggshells or copper tape around the crown handles them simply. For transforming a shaded problem area into something genuinely beautiful, no plant on this list does it more reliably. Before we get to the top 2, drop a comment right now and tell me, have you grown black-eyed Susans before, and which state or country are you gardening from? Now, if there is one perennial that captures the feeling of a warm, golden summer afternoon in the American countryside, it's black-eyed Susan. And goldsturm is the cultivar that made that image famous. The flowers are larger and more uniform than the straight species, the stems are sturdier and less prone to flopping, and it blooms from July through September with a consistency that very few perennials can match. The spreading mechanism is primarily self-seeding. Each plant produces abundant seed that germinates in surrounding soil the following spring, gradually building a larger and larger naturalistic grouping that looks increasingly as though it's always been there. The seed heads that remain through winter are a valuable food source for goldfinches and sparrows. Full sun, well-draining soil, zones 3 through 9. The one condition that kills goldsturm faster than anything else is poorly drained, consistently wet soil. Root rot sets in quickly. Give it drainage, and it's essentially indestructible. 2 plants left, and both of them deserve their spot at the top. Bee Balm. Jacob Klein is a native perennial that produces the most vivid, saturated red blooms you will find anywhere in the summer garden. The flowers are wild and shaggy, almost tropical looking, and they bloom for 6 to 8 weeks through the heart of summer in a color that's simply impossible to ignore. The reason Jacob Klein specifically makes this list over other bee balm varieties is mildew resistance. Standard bee balm is notorious for powdery mildew in humid summers, and it can defoliate the lower 2/3 of the plant by August, leaving you with blooms on bare stems. Jacob Klein was selected specifically for improved resistance to that problem. It holds its foliage far better through humid conditions and stays presentable through the whole bloom cycle. The spreading mechanism is rhizome expansion, fast, vigorous, enthusiastic. Give it space and it will fill a border section in just 2 or 3 seasons. Full sun to part shade, zones 4 through 9. Hummingbirds find it by instinct. Plant it near a window if you want daily visits through July and August. Pair it with black-eyed Susan goldsturm for a red and gold combination that is genuinely one of the most striking things you can create in a summer border. And the #1 fast-spreading perennial to plant this May, Creeping Phlox Emerald Blue. There is a specific moment in mid-April, usually about a 2-week window, when a mature planting of Creeping Phlox reaches peak bloom. And it is genuinely one of the most breathtaking sights in temperate gardening. The entire plant vanishes beneath a solid sheet of color. Every square inch of foliage is hidden under flowers. Emerald blue produces blooms in a clear, cool lavender blue that is almost impossibly vivid against green foliage, and when it's allowed to cascade over a stone wall or spill down a sunny slope, the effect is so beautiful that people will slow their cars down to look. The spreading mechanism is rooting stems. As the plant expands outward, the trailing stems make contact with soil and root down, gradually extending the mat wider and wider. A single plant purchased this May can become a 2-foot carpet by fall and a 4 to 5 foot sweep within 2 or 3 years. After blooming, shear it back lightly, about 1/3 of the growth, and it will reward you with exceptionally dense, tight coverage the following spring. Full sun, excellent drainage, zones 3 through 9. Heavy clay soil or standing water will kill it. Sharp drainage and sun are the two non-negotiable requirements. Pair it with tulip bulbs planted beneath it for an early spring combination where the tulips push up through the phlox just as it begins to bloom. The layered effect is spectacular. If you put one plant from this list in the ground this May, make it this one. So there's your complete May planting list. 10 perennials with specific cultivar names, spreading mechanisms, and zone details that you can take directly to the nursery this weekend. The thing that makes this list genuinely powerful isn't that these are unusual plants. It's that planted together, with the right placement for sun and shade and soil drainage, they create a layered, self-sustaining landscape that keeps expanding and improving on its own every single year. That's the goal, not a garden that demands constant reinvestment and attention, but one that builds momentum the longer you leave it alone. Here's a quick final reference before you go. For dry, sunny spots, Yarrow Coronation Gold, Sedum Autumn Joy, and Creeping Phlox Emerald Blue. For pollinators and wildlife, Bee Balm Jacob Klein, Coneflower Magnus, and Black-Eyed Susan Goldsturm. For shaded areas, Ajuga Black Scallop and Hostas Sum and Substance. For long summer color, Daylily, Stella d'Oro, and Russian Sage Little Spire. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Which one of these 10 are you planting first this May? And if you already have one of them in your yard, tell me which one. I'd love to know how it's performing for you. If you found this helpful, a thumbs up genuinely helps this channel reach more gardeners who need exactly this kind of specific, reliable plant information. And subscribe to GardenIQ. Next week, I'm putting together the companion planting guide that pairs directly with everything on today's list, showing you which of these 10 work best side by side for maximum visual impact and ecological benefit. You don't want to miss that one. Happy gardening, and I'll see you next week.